Hi, now that I have your attention, the previous photo, you don't have any evidence that that person is me, is wearing a mask. But do you know what we have evidence? About how fisheries are. So I am just simplifying. Thanks to Nathan that he made a good introduction to this, but I am simplifying the analysis to you can have open access fisheries, there is no regulation, no control, totally discretionary, total flexibility, doesn't perform well. Stocks are close to collapse, suboptimal profits, no control. You have single species management. There is a lot of evidence that it works. It achieves the conservation goals, optimal profits. However, it's expensive to implement. Some people might say that you have to make a big investment to achieve great goals. But I am wondering if one control doesn't care about which species you catch, you establish a specific control for a specific species to achieve goals. If there is a missing between these two types of management, that's what I call bundled fisheries. You impose an economic instrument over a subgroup of a species. And my question is, which is the performance of this potential instrument? How it deals with uncertainty? This is going to be the focus of my research, and this is not a new idea. There is evidence during the last 5 years that many fisheries around the world, from Mexico to China, Thailand, and Australia, they are implementing this scheme. And there is conservation, and the fishery still exists. So, what I am asking is, what is a bundled fishery? In a previous research, I refined that concept. I said that a bundled fishery manage multiple stocks under a common criterion. To do this smart, to facilitate the grouping of fisheries. You know that a school of fish forms naturally, so why we don't take advantage of that? And I make a differentiation between a quota bundle is a group of species regulated by a single quota and a tax bundle regulated by a single tax. Why I make that difference? Because in economic literature, there are some advantages of imposing a quota or imposing a tax. One of them is going to be more vulnerable to certain shocks than the other. And this graph is a little example of how you can group the fisheries. In the first one, you can establish the instrument according to the species. That's the single quota case. You can do this like a spectrum size model by the size of the fish. What I am proposing is according to the profits, the marginal profits between species. So basically, I just have my time is short, so you have to believe me. But we can talk more later. So can bundled fisheries achieve similar economic and ecological outcomes as single species management? I find yes, but it's going to depend on how you design this instrument, which species you group, which is going to be that common trait, how you group the species. So the next question is going to be, if there is a criterion, it's going to be multiple ones? Yes. I am saying that it's going to be the shadow price or the marginal profits, but under the criteria of optimal constant scaling. In that way, I am combining economic parameters and biological ones. Finally, which is better instrument when you deal with ecological shocks? A quota bundle or a tax bundle? I am still working on that, but in general, I find that tax bundles deal better with these cases. Even I am finding some evidence that you can weigh the tax between the two species and you don't need for them to have a lot of similarities. There is some room for improvement there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mauricio. Have time for questions. People interested in fish? Okay.
Thanks so much, Mauricio. What is optimal escapement?
Optimal escapement, let's define first escapement is the remaining fish that we have in the ocean. Optimal escapement is that the remaining fish of the ocean, we are going to balance the profit that we are going to have now versus the profit of letting one additional fish to let that to regrow in the ocean. So we are going to maintain that equilibrium, that the population is at a sustainable level.
Time for one more question. Something.
Okay, I'm not an economist, so it's scary that I'm asking this question, but okay, so you found essentially optimal escapement works, and that kind of makes sense for grouping. But I would have always thought, just my little nothing that I know about fisheries, that like the original approach where you optimize fishing certain ages, right? That you would want to leave, there's kind of this idea that I have that if you leave juveniles, it's better so they can grow, right? How come that doesn't work out? How come it works out that bundled works? Do you have any sense of why it works out like that?
You're right. In this research, I didn't explore that topic. That will require additional analysis. But you are right that if you don't incorporate that criteria, you can also make the bundle and you are going to drive the species, the conservation of the species towards disaster. So I am taking a pretty risky approach here, but all depends on the design. Yes.